Hello, denizens of the universe. I'm the Romance Scrooge, and joining me today are.
Enlightened robot.
And SR Nobody.
This time around, we're going to be discussing, I guess, a fairly significant episode of the Amazing World of Gumball. Well, the topic it tackled was enough to draw several people's attention and raise a few eyebrows. The Shippening.
Or as some people might call it, the Shipping Community Call-Out episode.
Otherwise known as Love Note. That doesn't quite translate. I was trying to make a joke about Death Note, but just saying Love Note, nobody's gonna get that unless I explicitly say Death Note. But whatever.
I got it. I immediately knew what you were talking about.
Same.
I'm not okay. So, I do know, like, maybe a little bit deeper into the conversation. There is something specific I want to bring up. But right at the moment, I just want to say, I love this episode. This was what can I say? What can I say without going head first into like the very deep end part of the episode? On the whole, this entire episode, I'd say it's a pretty lighthearted jab at the entire fandom and shipping communities of like Tumblr, DeviantArt, and I guess Twitter. I'm not sure of Twitter, but definitely Tumblr and DeviantArt. And I mean, it's also a kind of out of nowhere a Death Note parody. There's a few very obvious fourth wall jokes throughout this. I mean, the show is well known for breaking the fourth wall quite a bit already, but here we have like a notebook, the Death Note parody itself, that actually has the Cartoon Network logo plastered right on it, which I think that it's implied that it's like a writer's notebook or something. They don't go into like too much detail on it, but I'm pretty sure that's the implication. It's a notebook that was owned by a writer. Also, another weird thing, just like kind of an off-topic note,
like a story Bible.
The opening of this episode had strangely nice animation. Like, Gumball's never been bad with animation, but the very beginning of this episode of the Shippening, it seemed unconventionally good. I'm not really sure why. You guys notice that?
To be honest, not really. I was too busy. I was too busy just waiting for the moment when the plot device would fall out of the back of the van and things. I love that van is just it's just full of different plot devices or magic items that any one of those could be an episode in and of itself.
And that's the point of the awesome store.
So, okay. So I already said that this episode was pretty lighthearted in terms of its being in terms of like taking on like the shipping community and all that stuff. There's been a little bit of controversy surrounding this.
Oh yeah, the OC community.
Yeah. And actually, see, the strange thing is, like, the people who they've actually, the people who, depending on I don't want you to say it. You could say either A, they completely plagiarized people's fan art, or B, you could say they are paying homage to these people's fan art. And the people whose fan art are being homaged, I checked up on like all their accounts. A lot of they're all still active, producing more and more fan art, and they've even commented on the episodes, and they seem pretty okay with it. That being said, there are a few people outside of the people who are directly referenced who still think that directly copying fan art was not a good idea on the writer's part.
Yeah, this wouldn't be the first.
Actual band characters?
Yeah. I mean, this wouldn't be the first time Gumball's done this. Like, remember the episode with the Chinese knockoffs?
Yeah.
Yeah, those were pretty much straight character model rips.
In the storyboards, they were just straight up the characters. They did slight redesigns, and when I say slight, I mean very slight.
Just made it more show-like.
Yeah. In the copycats, but here instead, whereas the other one was made by whereas the Chinese Gumball ripoff was it was made by a milk company. These were made by these were made by individuals, people who they're artists online. They're people who are like no bigger than the three of us on this very podcast. And one of them was a called. One of them is the person whose art okay, so you know the very specifically the scribbly ones.
Yeah, Zachariah.
Yeah, Zachariah, and this bird is out of control.
Which I've actually used that.
Yeah, the okay, so the creator of the one that's very specifically a Darwin XP was someone who is very much on the autism spectrum, and they produce a ton of content for YouTube. It's actually they produce a ton of content on YouTube. There's definitely a charm to what they do, but it's always still drawn. It's always still drawn. This person isn't a child who drew the original thing. This is an adult who just draws like that. And one thing that really kind of bugs me, or not bugs me, it's not, I wouldn't say this is problematic. I wouldn't even say that they even knew about this. But one thing that I feel is a little bit in poor taste is that this could, the implication is that they are making fun of disabled people. I don't think that was the intended result, but that's something that that's something when I learned about this, that's something that has been kind of sort of in the back of my mind bugging me. You know what I mean?
I didn't even know these were based on actual fan characters from the way that they were presented and just the scribbly outlines and everything. I would have guessed that it was just a couple of characters that the cast and crew came up with on the fly.
No, they're real. And see, I don't think the other parodies, the other parodied fan art tropes throughout this episode definitely feel a bit more lighter in terms of what they're making fun of. I don't think the person who was the person who inspired the fan art, who inspired the wedding scene between Gumball and Darwin is exactly irritated that their art was used as reference for the show. But I'm just worried a little bit about about very specifically the scribbled ones, because that's the only one that I think can actually be interpreted as mean-spirited. And I don't know. I'm not really sure what to think about that, how to think about that. It's one thing to make jokes. Oh, this is just how kids draw. But when you're using a childlike drawing based off a drawing that was created by an autistic adult, it feels a little dirty. Even though I'm also assuming that they didn't actually know it was created by an adult. So I'm hoping that this was all just an accident.
That'd be my guess.
Because
if I were working on this particular cartoon and I were going to be setting up a segment like that, it'd be so easy to go on DeviantArt or Tumblr, look up Amazing World of Gumball fan character OC or whatever, and you're going to see a lot of Gumball and Darwin XPs, a lot of anthropomorphic cats. And I actually dabbled in this particular fandom for a little while. Another big trend was anthropomorphic bug characters. So you have a lot to choose from. It's just picking on or poking a little bit of fun at the XPs. Seems like the best go-to route. That's the biggest demographic or biggest part of the fandom, or the most apparent that you'd find just from a general search.
I do have to make it clear that the person who did create the character was actually flattered that their OC was used. Actually, I think they were the most vocal about their OC being used, and actually Ben Bequette retweeted them. So at the very least, they're on good terms now.
I say problem solved then.
Yeah.
Yeah, because the show wasn't really making fun of the character and their design and stuff. Just the whole situation of shipping and the culture behind creating OCs and all that. Like, it wasn't making fun of, oh, the people who do this are degenerates and all that, and oh, look at how terrible this is. They're more like, this is fun, this is interesting, have fun. And even Sarah's line, like how she fixed all of it by saying, and it was all fun, but because this was non-canon.
I think that, yeah. And also, like, there were more than a few jokes at the writer's expense in this episode. And actually, like, when I rewatched this episode so I could speak up on this podcast, I noticed that they're kind of sort of equating her name was Sarah, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. They're kind of equating Sarah not only with people who do OCs and write fan fictions online, but also with the writers themselves. So in a way, they're putting themselves on that same level. And I thought that was actually pretty interesting.
Heck, the impression I get with any kind of episode or show that takes a couple of pot shots like this or playfully ribs. Heck, don't most creators pretty much somewhere like that anymore? Like, they're now drawing fan art or making fan characters or some kind of fan-made content, or they're aware of what kind of fan content, fandom culture, whatever is in there. Your pup has a lot to say about this particular episode. They sound very spirited.
Hold on, I'm going to go ahead and try to like take them outside. I'll be right back.
Okay, but yeah, most writers and artists and stuff, they do make fan art and fan characters and stuff. I mean, hell, you could look at most of the OKKO background characters. Clearly, some of them were designed, they were just like probably, actually, even in Gumball's case, like most of those characters are from rejected commercials. Well, thinking about it, it could be.
I'm back.
Although thinking about it, it could be equated with. There was a line someone said on the podcast, Everything's Coming Up Simpsons, where they mentioned the reason why the quality of The Simpsons have declined is because when the show was first starting out, the writers were using life experience, and the writers that were coming in that were new grew up with The Simpsons. And then now, if you then shove that over to all these others, like most artists and writers, they've done fan art, they've written fan fiction. Possibly they started working on their own favorite show. So better to make fun? Who better to poke fun at that type of community than people who know what they're saying, who know what they're doing? Just pretty much a testament to the writers of the Amazing World of Gumballs, because usually when they have a topic and they're commenting on it, the writers fairly know what they're talking about, especially when it comes to internet and pop culture.
Definitely.
Okay.
Beyond the discussion of fan characters and such, I really like that, like the anime-esque Gumball and Darwin wedding sequence. When Amazing World of Gumball first came out, man, the fandom really latched on to that episode, The Dress. I don't remember the exact title of it, but they have really latched on to Gumball in a dress and the whole idea of Gumball and Darwin as a pair. That's still a pretty prominent thing in the fandom.
Although I like the moment beforehand with teenage Gumball with what was it, Carrie, and then just Darwin's comments like, "It's Carewin, not Careball, you homewrecker." Yeah, well, it looks like I didn't. Well, it looks like it didn't. I didn't stop at girls. Da, 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 dun, dun, dun. No.
I like the fact that they actually figured out a way of utilizing a very, very, very specific catchphrase in it. This bird is out of control.
This bird is out of control. I actually wrote down some of some interesting or funny pairings that Sarah did. Let's see. There was Penny and Banana Joe. That's like, the fuck? Although considering that was just outside Sarah's window, I'm surprised Gumball didn't make a mention of it. Let's see. Richard and I don't remember what the orange lady's name is. I just call her Helen because of the meme "Fight Me, Helen."
Let's just go with Helen.
Yeah, because she seems like a Helen. Let's see. The hot dog guy and the emo glitter girl.
That was great. I kind of wish that stuck.
There's Mr. Small and Larry.
That one I'm actually really close to shipping. Just myself.
That one, I can see that being one of those fringe or popular pairs off to the side. I haven't really visited a lot of the AWOG fan content in a while, but I know that the one Larry ship I can think of that was strangely popular or popped up every so often was Richard and Larry. So I wouldn't be surprised if Mr. Small snuck in there and was everybody's second favorite for aesthetic purposes or whatever else. I don't even know why Richard and Larry was a thing.
Because he works a lot, and I guess it's kind of like now I wouldn't say reverse, because like Nicole works and Larry works everywhere, and then Richard would be the lazy person in both relationships. And say, oh, and there's one pairing that I actually had to pause in order to get, but whenever Gumball opens the window and you see all these different pairings, riding on a unicorn is Anime Nicole and Wasami's mom.
Oh my god.
Yeah, they're anime models from the fight episode. The anime fight.
I need to go back and rewatch this episode just to rewind it to that part now, because that's just so many different layers of great.
And then there was the witch and one of the Lego builder guys. And then the hexagon girl with the rainbow hair, and Old Man Jenkins, which honestly, that hexagon girl, I kind of ship her with Nicole, but mostly for that one episode where she offered a back rub to, and then it's like, ow, what happened? I don't know. This isn't even in my department. And then runs off. It was the episode where the kids and Richard were basically getting on Nicole's nerve at the grocery store till eventually she went feral. Oh, The Limit. That's the episode. You've actually done it. Done what? You've pushed me over the limits.
It's that kind of shipping that fed into the madness of what this what this episode is.
Oh, and then I also wrote a couple lines that I liked, like whenever Gumball and Darwin open the window, and then it goes, like, it shows you the ships, and then it goes back, and Darwin's like, "Would you look at it outside? It's like a commercial for male." Would you look at it out there? It's like a commercial for male deodorant.
I just got that reference. I was trying to figure. I was trying to go through my head, like, what is that a reference to? That's Old Spice, isn't it?
No, it's Axe.
I mean, not Old Spice.
Yeah, Axe body spray. Anyone who's gone, like, I was in middle school when that was new. Dear God, those locker rooms. Oh no! I have no idea why my fellow students, like, they were like, "Oh, it's deodorant." And I'm like, "No, it's body spray. It just it blends in with your odor. And if your odor is terrible, then it makes your body smell worse. Take a shower."
But it's Axe body spray, and they have commercials everywhere.
I know.
I'm kind of terrified to know how many impressionable young teenagers and kids bought into the idea. Oh, it'll attract girls.
Too many. Way too many.
Seriously?
Well, considering, like, almost every guy in the middle and high school that I went to had a can in their locker, I would say at least one too many.
I knew somebody that wore Axe, but who knows? It's just thinking about when I was a teenager, when I saw commercials like that, I just sat there and laughed. And if I ever would have gone out and bought it myself, it'd be for the irony of it. Just to have it in... But that's just me. I don't know.
I shall now conduct an experiment to see if it works in the reverse. Or if it...
I would have just had it for the irony of it. I would have just had it for that.
Let's see. Oh yeah, I think one of the first ships that was that Sarah was riding, which was well, what are their names? It was the Paper Bear Girl and the balloon guy, the evil balloon guy. I just don't remember.
Carrie and Alan.
That's it. Yeah. It's been a while since I've watched the episodes like back to back.
I like how Gumball stepped in and pretty much broke up with Alan for Carmen. She was standing there like, what just happened?
Which I'm actually surprised that there isn't a ship. Like, I haven't seen a ship with that one paper. Or have I? I don't remember. It's probably because I don't go too deep into the shipping for this show.
I don't remember any off the top of my head.
I mean, like, I don't really think of this as a shipping show. I know people. There's always shipping for it, but it just doesn't. Compared to like Star vs. Force of Evil, or even say Gravity Falls, the show seems relatively mild with this kind of stuff. Aside from making a few jokes here and there, although I know that they've been trying to like push Darwin and Carrie together, and I also know that Gumball and Penny are an actual thing.
I think one of the reasons is because with this show, the difference between this show and Star Versus is that this show tends to want the relationships to last longer than, say, a season, and for there to be an actual grounding for the characters to be together rather than drama.
To be fair, these are two completely different shows. In regards to Star Versus, it's billed as a drama, slice of life, action adventure type show. Whereas with the Amazing World of Gumball, I've always seen it as a episodic satire or parody kind of thing. What makes it stand out from other cartoons in this particular genre, aside from the graphic design elements and even the overall presentation or what genre it's in, is the fact that it has more grounded characters and that it can get a bit more serious and sentimental or have gravity to it when it wants to. That's definitely one of the things that makes it stand out when you think of other comedy-centric. Well, that's comparing it to other shows in the episodic comedy-based genre kind of cartoons right now. not going there, but yeah, that elements like that definitely put it a cut above some of the other cartoons in that particular genre. That the comedy appeals to slightly wider demographic than you'd have with other similar cartoons, and it's pretty much the slightly bigger demographic and what they go for with overall presentation and storytelling.
It's also straight up the only example of like animation initially meant for children that is just straight up satirical. Like usually people reserve a satire for like the adult shows, but no, this show has plenty of like just genuine satire throughout the entire thing. And that's actually one of the reasons why I love it so much. Heck, this episode is satire. It's satire on the shipping community. So, yeah.
For lack of a better description, I'd say that The Amazing World of Gumball is this particular generation's variant to something like what Freakazoid or the Animaniacs were for 90s cartoons.
That's a good comparison, actually.
Yeah.
Because, like, I don't know, like, comparing Gumball to all the other shows that are like currently on Cartoon Network or even Disney Channel, despite the very graphic designy elements to like everything involved in the show, I'd also say that it very much looks and feels like I don't know, like what Cartoon Network made its name for. What Cartoon Network originally did, especially shows like say Johnny Bravo.
It's like they took those Cartoon Network City short segments and then just made a cartoon about it without using any of the characters from those shorts. And then made it meta.
A very, very silly thought just crossed my mind. Okay, so we know that Ace from the Powerpuff Girls appeared in Gorillas, right?
Mm-hmm.
And Gorillas is a mixed media thing. I just realized how not out of place the Gorillas would look in a episode of Gumball. They'd fit right in. Not saying that's going to happen, but they'd fit right in, wouldn't they?
That they would.
Yeah, and considering like
an odd thing to think about.
And considering the entire ever since Ace joined the Gorillas, Tumblr has naturally exploded with crossover fan theories. What universe is technically shared with the Gorillas now? I am pretty sure. Yeah, no. There is. I definitely see a connection. Now that I think of it, like a direct line of shows between the Amazing World of Gumball and Gorillas. The infamous episode of Steven Universe, Uncle Grandpa, where they crossed over. They featured Gumball listed among other Cartoon Network characters, as well as the Powerpuff Girls. Powerpuff Girls is obviously where Ace originated, and Ace is now a part of the Gorillas. Therefore, the Amazing World of Gumball and Gorillas take place in the same universe.
Well, there was that one episode of Uncle Grandpa, which I've only seen a clip of, where there was like a Cartoon Network like award show, except it was like Uncle Grandpa themed, and you had all the characters from the shows at that time there.
Oh yeah, I remember that clip. I did not care for that clip. I did not care for Uncle Grandpa. It's not a show I liked. But that clip felt like it was rubbing salt in the wound for some reason. Oh, hello, Blue Zebra. We're talking about the Shippening, and we also had a slight digression into Gorillas.
The Uncle Grandpa clip you're talking about, do you mean the one where they went to an award show and all the awards were given to Uncle Grandpa specifically or something like that?
Yeah.
I've seen that a couple of times. I thought it was pretty funny, personally. I didn't really see it as rubbing salt in the wounds or anything like that.
Yeah, it's kind of tongue-in-cheek. Probably because the writers know that they won't get any recognition from the show. Hell, they won't get any recognition from Cartoon Network.
Yeah, if anything, it felt more like commentary on that than anything else.
I don't know, like okay, so obviously I'm alone in this, and that's perfectly fine. My go-to comparison for this would be kind of like that what's it called? That big Butch Hartman crossover that everybody was making a big deal about that appeared on YouTube, and it was just to advertise Benson and the Beast. I kind of get similar vibes from that clip. It feels like a wasted crossover, I guess is the best way of putting it. You know what I mean?
Kinda, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, if we're going to play some kind of a subjective compare and contrast between that particular crossover and the Butch Hartman cartoon crossover, at least with the Uncle Grandpa crossover, there was some kind of setup. There was some kind of reason for why all these characters would appear in the same room together. And you'd have things play out the way that they did. They're at an award show. Uncle Grandpa gets all the awards. Just, there was some point to it. There was a setup and a punchline. E.g., Uncle Grandpa got all the awards and the other characters are peeved about it. Whereas with the Butch Hartman crossover, let's have the ghost portal act as an interdimensional portal, and all these characters show up in the same room just to be in the same room together. Now that one...
You know what? That's fair. That's a very fair criticism, actually. I don't
want to say too much, though, because it did get the job done. It advertised Butch Hartman cartoons. It put out, hey, Bunsen and Beast was made by the same guy that made all these other cartoons. I'm not a big fan of Bunsen personally, but I really don't want to rag on it too much since it was Butch Hartman's last big Nickelodeon project, and just... I don't know. I consider it just... The guy had a couple of duds in regards to cartoons, and they're just not my cup of tea personally. E.g., wasn't a big fan of Tough Puppy, not really a big fan of Bunsen. But he recently broke away from Nickelodeon. I'm really curious to see where his next project goes. I've seen some concept art and such floating around for a series called Elf Detective. Really, really hoping Butch decides to go in the direction of, I'm going to independently produce this. I am on board with this. Just waiting for him to set up the Kickstarter, Patreon, whatever. I will throw money at that to see what direction the guy would go with more creative direction. And it looks like he's doing something very, very different from the other stuff he's worked on in the past.
What's the name of that concept art thing?
Elf Detective.
Elf Detective. Because I have not heard of that.
Pretty much a purple elf in the suit. There isn't a lot out about it yet. It's shrouded in mystery because it's just in concept phase right now. But definitely looks like a very drastic departure from what Butch usually works on. The style for the character looks really different from his typical style too. Like, when you think Butch Hartman, you think rounded heads, kind of a triangle nose, big circular eyes, like more Western-inspired stuff. This one has an anime-esque feel or aesthetic to it, and the fact that the elf has a yo-yo, yeah, I definitely get the impression that it's still going to have Hartman's sense of humor or some kind of lighthearted elements to it. But I'm just kind of curious to see if this might be the kind of theme, tone, and story we would have gotten from Danny Phantom if Hartman had been able to push the envelope as much as he wanted to.
I see the art.
That's what my secret hope is.
I'm looking at the art right now. Okay, Butch Hartman, please go forward with this. This actually looks interesting. Okay, so what's a good way of putting this? Because I do like Butch Hartman. I do like I do like a few Butch Hartman cartoons, and I do like some shows that he's put out. I'm not a huge fan of the art style he always opts to use. And one of the reasons why I don't like it is because it also seems to have lent itself at least partially to the creation of the super flat. People complain about the Cal art style right now. There was a time where everybody was trying to go for like this super flat cardboard cutout, everything is flash animated look, and I think Butch Hartman's art style, even though art style is partially responsible for that trend, that said, he's still better than a lot of the people who came after him. But even with that said, it's not my favorite art style. But I do subscribe to like Butch Hartman's on my YouTube channel. And one thing that I found really super interesting was he did a Star Wars video a short while back. Well, actually a little while back. Prior to The Force Awakens, where he was pitching his idea for what the new Star Wars thing would be. And throughout the entire thing, he was drawing Star Wars characters, his ideas for everything. And something that fascinated me with it, the guy does have genuine drawing talent. There's definitely work going into his designs, and it looks like something I would love to see on TV one day. His art it's actually comparable to, say, Jendi Tartakovsky in that video, because Jendi Tartakovsky, he had his own two-dimensional Star Wars miniseries on Cartoon Network a while back, and this honestly didn't look too different from that. I don't know if he's going for this different style. If he's going to try something new, I would love that. Please, Butch, please don't screw this up.
Well, now that he's not anchored down to Nickelodeon, the sky's the limit.
Yeah.
If he's gonna pitch to a big network, go for Netflix, or just somebody who's gonna let him have full creative freedom. I want to see what happens. And again, if he decides to go indie with this, show me the link to the Patreon. I will throw money at this. I mean it. I don't. I'm pretty broke right now, but I will pull out a couple of dollars a month and throw it at this project because I want to see it come to fruition. Damn it.
Well, there is the concern, because like one of the problems with Danny Phantom is that as the show went on, it started to become more and more expensive. So if he has complete freedom, he might accidentally or even purposely go into the red.
A lot of this is speculative at this particular point in time. We'll see what happens. My best guess is that he probably will pitch to a network like Netflix or something. That, considering the scope of the project or what kind of art style he wants to go for, that'd seem like the better option. Might be able to get a bigger budget. Or a decently sized budget to produce several episodes, see how it performs, etc.
We'll just have to wait and see.
Considering where things are at this particular point in time, I'd bet it's probably going to be years and years before we see anything definitive on Elf Detective.
Yeah, I'm personally just waiting on Infinity Train and the other two projects that have been announced.
Yeah. Butch Hartman seems really active with his YouTube right now. I mean this in the best way possible. I encourage you guys to watch his videos. Subscribe to Butch Hartman. Watch his content. He's lame. And I mean that in the most affectionate way possible. He is super lame.
Yeah, he's the dad trying to be cool on YouTube, but there there's kind of an endearing, charming quality to it. I don't know.
How do you do, fellow kids? Do you like the Pokemons? How about
Oh God.
how about them memes?
Oh my
Watch out!
God.
I'm about to dab on y'all.
Oh, okay, looking at one of the comments here, Cartoon Critic asks, quick question, is there an actual problem using an OC in the episode, and in reality some of the OCs have likenesses of the copyrighted character? In the case of Gumball, I think they can get away with it since it's parody, and parody law pretty much encompasses that it's pretty much a gray area. They're poking fun at a concept or an idea. Let's not expand this into a bigger thing than it really needs to be. It was parody, plain and simple. It falls in the gray area of the law. It's fine.
Yeah, pretty much. At least with the specific case of the Gumball thing. With that said, there are a few people like say Alex Hirsch and a few other creators. They say that they make sure they don't like read fan fiction or anything, because if they actually take their ideas, then they can get into a little bit of legal trouble with that.
The case with something like that, though, is a cartoon like Gravity Falls. It's a more serious cartoon in tone and execution. If they were pulling ideas directly from a fan fiction, that would be a one-to-one possible idea theft. In the case of Gumball, it's parody a lot of the time. I suppose that, yeah, the fan fiction thing would come into play there too. But I guess the big question is, okay, you got me on that one. You got me on that one. But in the case of just the characters, I'd say no, they're fine.
Yeah, I mean, another thing is, even though the characters were modeled after fan characters, they did well, in the case of like Zachariah and the other OC, they were given different names. Oh, and they were given different names. Also, there is a reasonable amount of like doubt when it comes to some of the more vaguer fan art references. You could say that this wedding photo is a reference to a specific piece of fan art, but at the same time, it's also a gender bent version of Gumball and Darwin, who's the creators already own that copyright, standing in a nondescript wedding scene. That's a little bit of a Motown. That's a little bit of an iffier scenario. It'd be another thing if like something was like super specific. So I'm trying to think of like what a good thing it. Hey, nobody. Name one of your OCs in like your married Starkey AU.
Many. She counts.
Yeah, Minerva.
Yeah.
Yeah. If that character were to suddenly appear in Star vs. the Forces of Evil, well, nobody would have the option to sue. I don't think that's going to happen, and even if it did happen, I don't think nobody has the money to sue, but that would definitely be on the table if they straight up just took his character.
And considering the character is the child of my OTP currently, meaning that ship would be then canon, I'd be like, all right, hold on. I fully endorse this. I, for one, welcome our overlords. Or, I see you've finally converted to the dark side.
Dark side, more like the more narratively interesting side. Yeah, I'm gonna go there. I'm gonna go there.
Yeah. I mean, it'd be like, yeah, I even did a comic like that where it was basically me daring Disney to prove me wrong. It's like like Jana being like, "Hey, Marco, Star and Jackie Lynn have been pretty close lately. Have you feeling? Isn't that? Aren't you a little worried?" Like, nah, I'm. It's fine. Besides, I'm then like looking directly into the camera because I know Disney would never allow a Korosami plot to ever to ever be done.
It may not get that result with Star Versus, but it may happen with another Disney cartoon. Who knows? Things are changing slowly but surely on that particular front.
I just love the fact that because of Korosami, now that whenever something like that happens, it's known as the Korosami plot. Like, oh, they pulled a Korosami. Nice.
Well, to be fair, that was one of the first Western animated projects to pull a move like that and do so. Yeah, title's pretty much just there because they were one of the first most prominent.
I'm just glad that I was like I was shipping it ever since the first season. Though it was more like they're cute together, but I know it'll never happen. And season 2 happens, I'm like, okay, they're still cute together, and they're getting closer, but I know it'll never happen. Season 3, what the fuck are they doing? They're getting closer, but I know it won't happen. Stop it, writers. And season 4 happens. Why? Why? Why must you prove me wrong?
Isn't it a good thing they proved you wrong there?
I know, but it's one of those like you're damned if you do and you're damned if you don't. Like whenever you have a really good headcanon or theory for a show and it turns out to be true, then it's like, holy crap, I was right.
I'm not looking forward to you being right about Eclipsa. I'm really not. But I know you're right.
I am right, and everyone will see it. Eclipsa is evil. Evil, I tell you. Evil!
Such mixed feelings about that.
Oh, she's...
I've seen a couple of big YouTube clickbait titles saying Season 4 is the last season of Star Versus. Are there any official announcements for this out there? Or, like official
one person offhandedly said that she is going to stay with Disney, but the production for Star Versus is ending soon, and she's going to move on to that Dana Terrace show. That's where the entire story came from. If this is the last episode of season of Star Versus, I think I lost my train of thought. I'm sorry. I got distracted by an email. What was I saying?
Last season of Star Versus.
Yeah, the last season of Star Versus. If this is the end of Star Versus, it's had its run. It's this is the fourth season. The storyline doesn't seem to have too many more loose ends to fix. I mean, we already had the entire Eclipse. We already had the entire Meteora storyline, so I just hope it ends on a good note before I don't want them to like keep producing episodes and go and inevitably become a worse show for it. So if this is the last season,
the show will only end after Starko becomes canon, after Marco has dated and broken the hearts of every other female character within his harem, and as they continue to add more female characters for which to add.
Yeah, the entire Marklipsa episode was really awkward.
Let's not go there.
No, just wait till there's the Moonco episode.
Oh my god. Just stop. Stop. Stop it.
Yeah, there's a line I'm not going to cross. I'll stop it right there. There is a line I'm not going to cross.
I mean, if it's a time travel episode, that would make it like slightly less creepy, but it'd still be very creepy. It's like, Star, I think I almost became your dad.
Star Butterfly's mom has got it going on. She's all I want, and I'm waiting for so long.
I mean, considering the first time Moon let her hair down, there was just like if you listened closely, you could hear hundreds of Star Versus fans shout, "Damn!"
Oh, you should have heard one of my buddies on the Talking Rainbows, Talking Puppies podcast commenting on Moon's legs in one episode. She was kind of showing them off. So comments on how attractive Moon is started long before her letting her hair down. We don't need any time traveling Marco. We already have the murk surrounding the whole he went to another dimension and lived there for 30 years thing. There's still a bunch of people trying to cut through that murk.
Which doesn't make it even any better, the fact that the writers are having Marco remember his time in Hecapu's dimension.
To be honest, I'm okay with Marco retaining muscle memory from those particular experiences because it adds dramatically to what his goals are in the main show. Like, if you keep it to, he has refined and honed senses, he can wield a sword, he can go into battle and stuff. If you just draw the line there and leave it at that, it contributes to him becoming a knight. You can have other plot lines focusing on him and Higgs and otherwise, and dealing with the whole Marco's 30 years old or he lived another 10 years in this other dimension, I just chalk it up as Narnia logic. In other words, he spent that 10 years there, but he's still physically, mentally, and emotionally 14, 15 in this universe. You don't really need to carry over every single aspect of what happened in that other dimension.
I'm with you on that. Otherwise, I probably couldn't watch the show. But yeah, I'm with you on that.
That's just what I've chalked it up as. What I find funny, this is going to be a bit of a ridiculous side tangent. Very, very loosely tangentially related. I've been watching a lot of Let's Plays for an indie game called Monster Prom lately. And one of the dialogue trees for one of the characters is that they're debating Starco versus Markapoo. And they bring up, one of the arguments one of the characters brings up is about Marco going to this other dimension and how wrong Starco is because of that plot thread. Oh my god, that...
I've seen that screenshot.
Yes! Yes! My nerd culture is being acknowledged in a... I don't know. It just cracked me up to see that there. I don't know. It just makes me happy to see that there, since it shows that the larger pop culture, or the larger consciousness of pop culture, whatever, knows that one of my favorite cartoons exists. My fandom has been acknowledged. It means there will be more like it. There will be more.
You must acknowledge my geode.
Okay, I know I shouldn't have opened this can of worms. Just, again, with the whole Marco other dimension thing, he's physically, mentally, and emotionally 15 in the canonical universe. If Starbursts isn't going to tackle moral or ethical conundrums with that kind of thing, I'd see a show like Rick and Morty tackling something like that, or another cartoon. But in Starbursts, for all intents and purposes, Starco is fine. Marco dating anyone 15, 16 years old is fine.
It wouldn't be so bad if not for the fact that the Marco and Star can consider Marco about 30. That's the issue that I think a lot of people have.
Well, I mean, there's also the fact that it became a regular thing with this has Marco going on Hekapoo's adventures has become a somewhat regular thing. So who knows how many years he's actually been in there. Actually, I might end up writing about this later. You could almost make an argument. You could almost make an argument. This is going into pure fan fiction territory, but you could almost make an argument that Hekapoo and Marco would know each other far more than Marco and Star did, just based entirely off of time.
You could make that argument. And to be honest, yeah, that is a problem. That is problematic. I'm just willing to shelve that particular element of the show, or just say Starco's fine, because that's what they're going with in canon. That's what the writers decided to take that direction in. That's the general impression I'm getting. I'm willing to just shelve it and leave it alone.
Time is on my side. Yes, it is.
Yeah, you know what they could do to make it less creepy? Give them a called put Star in that dimension for an episode or two, and then have her come back.
Well, she does need a new pair of scissors.
Yeah, it'd be nice seeing him Todd. I think it would genuinely be nice to see Star have a find herself moment, much like Marco did for that episode.
Though I do need to write that comic where Jacqueline gets her scissors in my married Starkey AQ. Like, all right, don't worry, Jackie. I'm here and I'll be able to help you. And then Hekapoo's just like, all right, I'll bring her scissors right out. But I had to. Oh, come on, she's the wife of the queen, and she's cute. Why?
Oh, you know what they could do? They could strand them up. They could strand them up. Star in Hekapoo's dimension, and then they could take Hekapoo away in whatever story contrivance you need there. So she's actually literally stranded. That could be a story arc in itself.
Yeah, I could see it now. Star's going through all the trials and tribulations of trying to survive in Hekapoo's dimension. It's like, Like she's being chased by some giant monster. Like, where's oh come on, where is Hekapoo? And then it cuts shots to Hekapoo in a bar, just drinking.
Well, that's way more lighthearted than what I was thinking.
And then a certain green-skinned lava-themed villain just slides away close.
You just want lava scissors to be canon.
And it would be an interesting cameo.
Okay, yeah, you got me there. I like the idea of Star getting her own episode in Hekapoo's dimension. There is a lot that you could do with that. And yeah, pretty much tie up all the potential issues you could have with Starco. Well, that particular set of issues, not the writing ones.
Yeah. Okay, so I don't know, I think one cohesive theme, I think something that keeps me coming back to the show, and one thing that I think ties a lot of this entire conversation about Star versus together. The beautiful thing about Star versus Forces of Evil is that there is so much that is implied but not actually seen. And there's so much that is implied but not actually seen that you can make like endless headcanons, fan fictions, alternate universes out of it. Actually, I think arguably the fandom is one of my favorite parts of engaging with the fandom is one of my favorite parts of being, watching this show and being part of it.
I mean, that was my main problem with season 3, is that there seemed like a lot of missing elements, like missing scenes or missing lines or missing episodes that explain certain things about like why certain characters are doing a certain thing.
I suppose that is the flip side of it. You put so much cannon fodder into a show, and people are going to start asking questions, and it looks like you don't actually have an answer.
Of course, I am a major lore nerd. Like, I want to know every little detail.
Yeah. Like, okay, so I really don't write fan fiction I really don't write fan fiction, but Star Versus has made me want to on a number of occasions. To the point where one character who I draw somewhat regularly and still have a story in mind for them, originated as Star Butterfly, but has since become their own character. But I don't know, like what's the name of that episode? The episode where I think it was like puddle jumping or something, where we see Star first go into the dimension of magic, and Marco and Jana are watching Star go through all these dimensions, trying to figure out where she's going. What was the name of that episode? Was it like puddle jumping or something like that?
Sounds about right.
Yeah. Watching that episode, I almost had watching that episode, it almost feels like there's another cartoon premise right here with a Jana like character and a Marco like character just solving paranormal mysteries together. Something like I suppose we kind of have that with Gravity Falls, but something a little bit more akin to a young adult novel is probably the best way of putting it. Or well, see, my entire OC who originally started out as Star Butterfly was, what if Star Butterfly ran away from Muni when she discovered that she didn't actually want to be queen? What happens if she just traveled the universe trying to avoid her responsibilities? There's another story for you. We just mentioned what would happen if Star gets stranded in Hekapoo's dimension and Star can't get back home. What if she grows up and becomes an adult? the fan fiction potential for Starverses is exponential. It's probably one of the most fan fiction-y shows I've ever seen. And I mean that in the best way possible. I should mention that. Because usually when people compare things to fan fiction, that's not a good thing. But here, in this specific case, I actually love that part.
Hmm. Oh yeah, there's something else I wanted to bring up about the potential of Star going through her own Hekapoo trial. A couple of times when I was still recording episodes and stuff with Talking Rainbows, Talking Puppies, Eric brought up kind of an interesting idea about the dynamic between Star and Hekapoo. Like, there's been a couple of times where Hekapoo seemed kind of irritated or disgruntled with Star. Like, there's the episode with the funeral and such, where Star sticks her head in the punch bowl and everybody around her thinks she's acting a bit eccentric, and Hekapoo just kind of scoffs and or just some of her reactions. He came up with the idea does Hekapoo really like Star, or what does she think of Star in general? We haven't seen a lot of direct one-on-one interactions between Star and Hekapoo, and it's possible that she isn't very fond of the Queen's daughter, or has a few misgivings about her. That's a thing. An episode with Star and Hekapoo one-on-one would not only be an interesting chance to explore that particular dynamic and maybe hear some of Hekapoo's critiques about Star's character, but potential for them to maybe overcome that particular hurdle and come to some kind of understanding. I think it'd be a lot more interesting if that were the direction they were going, or that were the setup for it. They reached a point of begrudging respect for each other rather than becoming friends or whatever else. It'd also leave room for, oh, Marco's the future king of Muni, so he could act as a buffer between the Queen and Hekapoo and that kind of thing.
That'd be cool. I want to see that.
It's probably Hekapoo, like Hekapoo's dislike of Star. I mean, considering Moon when she was Star's age was more calm and more mature, although that hid her anxieties. And then also Hekapoo in our minds probably just like, really? I lost muscles for this?
I didn't realize how much we haven't seen Hekapoo interact with Star before.
Yeah, because she has a friendship with Romulus, and then she has gotten direct advice from Omnitraxis Prime. She hasn't really interacted with Lekmet, which now she can't really do that, or Hekapoo.
Poor Lekmet. Lekmet was gone too soon. I really liked him. I really liked his design.
And if you looked at the storyboard for the stuff that they were planning for season 3, like they were planning for Lekmet to come back. So hopefully that is moved over to season 4.
Huh.
They were planning on bringing him back?
No,
yeah,
please.
it's on the cork board for the season.
I sure hope so. Let's bring back Grandfather Satan to the show. I loved him. I loved his character, and I loved his relationship with Romulus. I'm actually kind of want that. I want to see that. That being said, I hope it's like a big moment. Like, I don't want them to just bring him back like off screen. I don't think they're going to do that.
Yeah, they probably will, and then like it'll be a Starco episode, and then the next episode, Lekmet will be back, and people will just be like, it's like, oh hey, Lekmet's back. Yeah, there was this big adventure. Don't worry about it.
No, I mean, like, I don't know. Like, okay, Lekmet is dead. There's always like this. There's always like this one big issue with it when it comes to There's always this one big issue when it comes to a lot of modern fiction. That's like characters don't stay dead, and bringing characters constantly back to life is kind of ruins what death is supposed to mean in the show. But if they can pull off some serious story here to bring back Omnitrex's Prime, and they actually show it off, they actually have the characters work to bring them back, I'm all for that.
Well, now that Glossaric, we now know, is completely 100% conscience, and according to the lore of the series, Glossaric created the Magical High Commission. He could just theoretically recreate Lekmet.
Cartoon Critic asked, do you think Globgor is evil? I don't know. What do you guys think?
That's a good question. We'll probably find out. To be honest, I'm tentative to chalk him up as outright evil. If they're going in the direction of Eclipsa and Globgor being the big bads, there's probably some kind of justification for their actions, or some kind of reasoning for it. Like, they're going to be sympathetic villains. That's the one thing that I'd predict right now.
Yeah, more than likely that like their past will make them sympathetic villains, but considering they were conscious for during the entire time that they were frozen, chances are that they've become more evil.
I kind of like the idea of them playing antagonist, but not as evil, as villains necessarily.
Like, they'll play the sympathy card.
Yeah, and if that's the case, then I kind of want the show to go from just straight up killing the villains to having a much more complicated ending where I don't know, where maybe something is discovered, something is lost, and maybe a compromise is reached, and maybe the compromise is like bittersweet. I wonder if Star Versus would actually go in that direction, ending on a note that is somewhat, I don't know, on the ambiguous side of things.
I can honestly see that, considering what kind of themes they've been building up and playing with. A bittersweet ending makes a lot more sense.
Yeah, the last thing I want to see is these characters just straight up, they're evil, end of story. I think that the writers are smarter than that, especially since they went out of their way to make Eclipsa so likable.
And therein lies the whole plot of her being evil.
I don't know.
Because as I've discovered throughout life, when people don't think when people don't believe that you're evil, that's the greatest trick you can play on them.
They're publishing Star's spellbook?
I haven't been in contact with the biggest Star versus the Forces of Evil nerd I know lately, so I didn't know this either. lost my biggest source of news for this, man. I don't know what to do. I say that relatively. I'm just assuming he's been busy.
Oh, Star Spell book.
Yeah, if it comes out, I'll probably get it. I know I have the I know I really loved the Gravity Falls journal. I hope they kind of do something similar with this. Bye, Blue Zebra.
I don't know. I didn't get the other Star Versus book.
I got it.
How is it?
Not too bad. I'd say it's worth a buy if you're a Star Versus fan and want a physical piece of merchandise sitting around. Something that you'd probably pick up and flip back through. I don't know. I consider it worth the money.
I've seen a few pages. Jana likes skeletons. Jana would fit right in on Tumblr.
I need to go get my copy of the Gravity Falls journal and my Star Versus thing from my parents' house. I've left them over at my parents' house for months, and I better get those since I plan on moving out of state in the next several months. And yeah, those are coming with me. Those are mine. They are coming with me.
Was your journal like falling apart?
No, not really. But then again, I haven't really done much with it.
My journal fell apart. Yeah.
Alrighty. I'm going to go ahead and wrap things up here. Any last comments from anybody?
Eclipsa was a monster fucker way before Guillermo del Toro made that fish fucking movie.
The politically correct term is monster lover, robot. She's a monster lover.
I think that's the word I'm going to end on.
I still need to make that comic for a friend of mine.
All right. Good night, everybody. And Eric and Bacon, I will run that monster lover joke into the ground if you guys don't. Quit slacking. Start running it into the ground on your podcast, too. Good night, everybody.
Good night, everybody.